Welcome to Winter Park and to the Scenic Boat Tour. My name's David and I'm going to be your guide for the next hour on these 3 lakes and 2 canals. Tres Lagos, Dos Canales. Together we will explore the secrets of Winter Park. Now we start here on Lake Osceola for a couple of very good reasons. Number 1, this is where our town began. Numero dos, this is where the dock is conveniently located. So that has worked out nicely. The name, Nombre Osceola, comes from the famed warrior leader of the Seminoles. His people used to camp on these shores long before there was a winter park. Now the story of our town begins in 1881. That's when a couple of old friends from New England came down here in February. They were looking for health, they were looking for wealth. I believe they found both. They bought property and they started to build the first planned community in the state. The goal was simple: get wealthy northerners down here for the winter time so they could enjoy it Florida style, in the sunshine. They built it, people came, they called it Winter Park. Now it sure didn't hurt matters that the railroad had just come to town. That was good. Better still, in 5 years we had a beautiful hotel up and running right here. Try to imagine it. The Seminole Hotel was the largest in the state. 200 rooms, 5 stories. By contrast, we barely had a few hundred people living here. This was kind of a backwater. But we had the hotel and we had the lakes and we had the railroad. We had it all for 16 winters. But then the hotel burned to the ground in the off-season of 1902. But we bounced back. Look around. I think you'd agree Winter Park's doing okay. I'm not going to be passing this hat around. Here is a new use for some of the old hotel property. That is the Polasek Museum and Sculpture Gardens. Alvin Polasek was from Czechoslovakia, world-renowned sculptor. He lived there and worked there in the 50s. Now it's a museum and they have more than 200 of his works on the property. The gardens are lovely. You can do it any day but Monday, lunes. All of our museums close on Mondays. Next door with the dock is one of our oldest homes. It's called the Capon House. Its secret is it was built in 1885 across the lake, and it stayed there until 10 years back, when somebody bought that place and was just going to trash it. Instead, they saved the Capon House by putting 2 pieces of the house on the barge. First, of course, they cut it down the middle, and they put the pieces on that barge, floated them over there, and the museum put it back together. It took 2 years. Now you can rent the Capon House the next time you want to throw a party. And if you think your guests would enjoy a water taxi experience, I know a guy. No pressure, but we can hook you up. This is an old logging canal called the Fern Canal, Canal de Helechos. In the early days, we had a timber industry. We had lumberjacks here. They were looking for the easy way to get those logs to a sawmill on the next lake. So they looked at the streams and made them deeper and wider. But they couldn't just pop the logs in and pick them up at the other end. There's a current, and it goes this way. So what did they do, having to go that way? They brought in mule teams. There'd be a path on the side. The mules would pull the logs right through. Quickly to the left, that is the kind of tree they would have been after. That's a long needle southern pine wrapped in that vine. Just ahead, Osceola Avenue over our heads, and our heads, our cabezas, can take a knock from some pipes underneath. If you're tall, you're going to want to duck. If you're taking pictures, please keep the phone down just a little bit under the bridge. Here's something even Winter Park residents struggle with. The street has 4 names, cuatro nombres, in a half mile. Fairbanks, Osceola, Brewer, Aloma. Don't try to remember the names, but do remember to duck if you're tall. Okay, I think we're good. And I think we'll be good for the return trip, unless you're going through some kind of a growth spurt. Has anyone been on the tour before? Yeah. Well, if so, welcome back. If not, we'll catch you next time. But I wanted to tell you about this old bridge, 2 lanes, 2 limbs, a natural bridge over our heads. Until 2 summers ago, when it started to sag, the city had to take it out, and it does change things here. Now all of our squirrels have to take the high road. If you want to see an alligator today, this might be our best and only opportunity. Please take a look left, look low, and by all means, lower your expectations. This guy is kind of a stoner. He's been here for years. And he'll be right there on the way back, along with his buddy, the attack frog. This is Lake Virginia, Lago de Virginia, named by the guy that ran the sawmill. He was from Virginia. But our first non-native settlers were Georgians. Their name was Mizell. David Mizell and his family came down here just before the Civil War and settled right here. They called that settlement Lakeview, but the view was a little different back then. None of these big places, just a log cabin on 8 acres. They raised citrus, cattle, cotton, and kids. Niños, familia grande, big family. And we remember the Mizells today with a lake all of their own. Just to the left, under that bridge, is a little sliver of their lake, Lago de Mizell, Lake Mizell. Little bitty thing, but it wraps around all these homes, including that little starter home in white. Now, believe it or not, that started off as a gentleman's club. No, not that kind. This was the 1920s. The businessmen of Winter Park built the center section, just that, as a clubhouse, a place they could go at night, play some cards, have some laughs. They built it and opened it, but it didn't do that well. So they sold it, and the guy that bought it left it to Rollins College. They taught music here for years, but now it's in private hands. One of the owners thought it would look better bigger, and he made it happen, having wings left and right, and he put in that lawn, the prettiest in town. The secret? That is AstroTurf. Fake grass. Yeah. Please don't judge. We've all thought of it. He actually pulled it off. Now, this street is called Genius Drive, and that name can be a bit intimidating. But don't worry, it's a family name, nombre de familia, nobody's IQ score. But let's be real. If you can live in homes like these, in a spot like this, between 2 lakes, how much smarter could you be? You've got sunrise every morning over Lake Mizell and sunset here over Lake Virginia. I mentioned the Genius family, and you will see their estate. The real genius, though, might be a guy by the name of Morse. Charles Hosmer Morse. In fact, you all came down Morse Boulevard. Don't miss the Morse Museum on Park Avenue. It has the world's most comprehensive collection of Tiffany's works. But don't show up on a Monday. All museums here are closed. The only glass you'll be seeing is the front door. So why would you call Morse a genius? He bought a lot of land here. He picked up 200 acres between the lakes. He paid $3 an acre. What? Genius. Try finding a coffee for $3 today on Park Avenue. Good luck. Any lakefront property is going to run well into the millions. This is the home the Genius family built in the 1930s. It's called Windsong, Canción de Viento. It sits on some of the old Morse property. The 2 families intermarried. The big secret? Nobody lives there. It's a nature preserve. The family just donated the land and the house years ago. Now it's the home of our peacocks. We have about 20 of our official birds living on the property, and the good news for them is that land will never be developed. Hang on to your hats, your children, and your checkbooks. We're off to college. Especially those snappy new ones. Oh, we like those. Okay? Good catch. I can't figure out if this guy's from Texas or Massachusetts. I'm still... We got the background check at work, though. We're checking it out. This is Rollins College, Colegio de Rollins, off to the right, a derecha. It is the oldest in Florida. Don't let anyone from Stetson tell you anything different. When they opened the doors here in 1885, tuition was $32 a year. Another $132 for the room and board. Let's add that up. I've got $164. I'll write that check right now. Problem is, today it would barely get you a hoodie at the bookstore. Yeah, maybe a couple of paperbacks, but if you add everything together now, tuition, room and board, fees, you're talking $80,000 a year. But there is a little bit of light at the end of that financial tunnel. 94% of the students get financial aid. It's a small school. It's a liberal arts school. They offer more than 30 majors, but they concentrate on the arts. All the Rollins sports teams are called the Tars. Not Tar Heels, just Tars. Okay, what the heck is a tar? It's an old English word for sailor, and that makes sense. They sit right on the water. They do very well in sports involving water. They swim. Tres piscinas, 3 swimming pools on campus. It's like going on the Oprah Winfrey show. You get a pool. You get a pool. Everybody gets a pool. Not exactly a giveaway, though, at those prices. Now, there's a great way to experience Rollins on your own, and you will not spend a dime doing so. There's a path from one end of campus to the other along the shoreline. You never lose sight of the lake or the lovely Spanish architecture. If you start your journey at the west end of campus, where we're heading, you'll see the pier. The pier is not for swimming. Sunbathing is fine, but if you're sunbathing, please use discretion. We're out here every hour. It's not exactly the Riviera, but there is a woman from the neighborhood that likes to push the envelope a little bit. Yeah, I haven't seen her for a while, but believe me, we've seen quite a bit of her. The white bird you see over there, standing almost completely still, is an egret. That's how they hunt. They set up in shallow water. Yeah, I think he just grabs something. And anything that swims or crawls by, he grabs for lunch. Here's one of those 3 pools. This is the one for the swim team. Wish we had that water feature on the boat sometimes on a day like this. Here's the path I mentioned. As you can see, it's right by the shoreline. And here they give you a little rest stop. I mean, it's not a Buc-ee's by any means, but it's not bad. There are 3 benches over there shaped like boats in the shade of those cypress trees. Here you can pop down, look at the lake, or look at the latest Spanish architecture behind you. That is Lakeside. Student housing, 3 buildings, 400 beds, and most importantly, a pool shaped like an anchor. You might notice a theme developing here. Kids are away from school for the summertime now. They always graduate the seniors on Mother's Day. That's a Rollins tradition. As apparently is parking the ski jump there, where we can't use it while they're gone for the summer. Believe me, I'm just as disappointed as you. Here's the boathouse for both the sailors and the skiers. And here's an art museum right on campus, but not for much longer. The Rollins Museum of Art is going to be moving off campus next year. They still have to build the new museum. The problem is space, so it'll be much bigger, and it won't be far. One of the 2 sites they're considering is across from the Alfond Inn. The Alfond is a 4-star hotel. You might be staying there. Good on you. Rollins owns the hotel, Rollins operates it, and anything you spend there goes directly to scholarships. Now, if you walk through campus on that pathway, you can also add a few steps to your trip and take in this city park next door. Here is a place where you can swim. And by the way, that's where the old sawmill stood, right there where you see the dock. So if you were wondering where the logs ended up, now you know. I'm sure you'll sleep better tonight. The bird that just walked by, or flew by on our left is an ibis, a little bit of a smaller bird than the big egrets. On the other end of the park, we have a boat launch. We used to have a little railroad station there for something called the Orlando and Winter Park Railway. That thing could not stay on the tracks. The kids next door were often called to help put the train back onto the track, and they started calling the railroad the Dinky Line. The name stuck. That's still Dinky Dock. Here's a little bit more housing for the Rollins students. That's Sutton Place. It's an old apartment building that Rollins picked up for student housing when they could. They got a pool in that deal, but they had to bring that pool up to Rollins standards. So they planted the palms and built the study dock. You can imagine how much studying gets done by college kids in swimsuits. Next door, this is Barker House with the 2 boathouses. That's where the president of Rollins lives. So if you think you'd like to run a college and live in a house like that, get your application in, because the current president is stepping down next year. We're off campus now. These are all private homes, condominiums. This feathery wispy plant ahead of us is called papiro in Espanol. And if you didn't fall asleep in ancient history class, you might remember learning that long ago in Egypt they figured out a way of making paper out of plants like that. Now back to the canal under this live oak. The stuff hanging from the branches is called Spanish moss. That is a bit of a misnomer though. No es de España. It's not from Spain. No es musgo. It's not even moss. No, the secret is this stuff is actually in the bromeliad family, La Familia de las Bromelias. So that would put it in the same plant group as, get this, pineapples, piñas. Do not put it on Hawaiian pizza, please. Frog and alligator to the right, just where we left them. Bananas on these little trees. We're very glad to see the fruit production. They'll be very handy during the summertime. Bamboo to the right. Not native to Florida, but it grows like a weed here. The joke is, plant it and then run to the house before it catches you. It grows almost that quickly. Before we duck under the bridge, look above. That flowering tree is a bougainvillea. The secret there, what you see up there in red or roja, are not flowers at all. They're leaves that change color. They're called bracts, B-R-A-C-T-S. These things above us, these are called pipes. P-I-P-E-S. Remember them? I'm glad you all were able to duck safely. This is the tallest and oldest live oak in town. Said to be older than these United States. So that would put this tree here back in the time of the American Revolution. Take a look at the trunk. Here's some more bamboo, now on the left, a different variety, but the same aggressive growth. Here's a tip you can take home if you ever find yourselves living next door to really terrible neighbors. Plant some bamboo on the property line, step back and watch it do its magic. You may never see those neighbors again. You're welcome. De nada. Now to the right, in the water, these are cypress knees. Cypress trees don't have to grow in or around water, but they can survive wet conditions. The roots just send up those spikes to get above the water line. If you've ever filled your tank at a Sinclair station, give yourself a pat on the back and then look over your left shoulder to see what you've built and maintained for many years. That was the Sinclair family's winter getaway for years. Now, do we have any New Yorkers with us today? I need a city or a borough, please. Manhattan will work for me, thank you. We're actually going to use Manhattan as our springboard. We're going upstate to a little town called Portland, New York. It sits right next to Syracuse. It produced a very important couple for us in Winter Park, the Brewers. Mr. Brewer was a big shot. He owned a factory. He made carriages, carriage parts, but every winter he would come down to that sawmill on Lake Virginia to buy lumber. He'd ship it north, and then he would take a long vacation. Mrs. B was not interested in Florida, sunburn, snakes, swamps. Finally, she came for a visit, and she loved it. Take a look up the hill past that double boathouse. That is the Brewer Estate, also known as the Palms, Las Palmas. The secret? That's just a copy of their place up north. He took the old blueprints, dusted them off, and built that high on a hill. You know what they say, happy wife. Thanks, ladies. Can always depend on the ladies, yeah. Gentlemen, not so much, unless, of course, it's Valentine's Day. Oh, then they're all about it, yes. Wonder why. Yeah, well, enjoy that quiet ride home, gentlemen. These are purple martin houses. Now, a purple martin is a bird who will gladly move into a condo of your design up on a pole. People like them. They eat mosquitoes, after all. But here's the big secret. They actually eat more things that eat mosquitoes than they do mosquitoes. So now what have you really done? You've spent all that time and money. This guy's got 4 going. I just hope to heck that he has a secret stash of off insect repellent for the summer months. He's going to need it. Before this was Orange County, it was Mosquito County. Very happy with the name change, by the way. We have some beautiful homes, that's no secret. The secret is that more than 70 were designed by one architect, James Gamble Rogers II. This is his work on the point. It's called the Rich Estate, La Finca Rica. And just as in the case of the Genius property, that is a family name, nombre de familia, not a bad pun. Now, it's been sitting right here since 1956, but a lot of our guests say it looks to them like it belongs on the island of Bermuda. And it does have some island architecture. The white roof, those fish fins or praying hands over the chimney. There's a nice sandy beach, La Playa. They say of the Rich Estate, that's an anhinga, snakebird, just went down to do some fishing. They say of the Rich Estate that every single room has a beautiful view of Lake Osceola. Well, maybe then. Let me show you now.
It's huge.
Well, what have we here? New construction. Maybe 6 years old? What do you think? Has someone just built the Richer Estate? Right next door. Let's talk alligators again, but first I want to apologize to you all for that lame statue back there in the canal. I'm sorry, but some days that's as good as we get. Do we even have alligators in these lakes these days? Yes. See. Do we have a lot of them? No. For that, you'd need to go 10 miles to the northeast to a place called Lake Jessup. It is said of that lake there are so many alligators in it, you could walk across their backs to get from one shore to the other. I would check your insurance policies carefully first. Should we be worried about the alligators we do have? I would say a little bit in the front seat. And they're very fond of our hats and Nikes. But don't worry too much, sir. We're not going over there to Alligator Cove. But believe me, up until 1980, that was the place for any self-respecting alligator to go for a date in mating season. You know, this was before Tinder. No need to swipe left or swipe right. If you were an alligator looking for love, that was the jam. But it ended in 1980 when the city hired a trapper and he pulled out of these lakes 150 alligators. Now, even if he got them all, it's been, 44 years. We don't have many. We don't see them. They're nocturnal. End of worries. Unless you want to worry about something like this. How do we get into a house like that? I think the people building it are wondering the same thing. This is year 4 of construction. It'll eventually pay off. It's going to be the largest ever in Winter Park, just north of 40,000 square feet. Now, it was supposed to be done for the last 2 Christmases, 22 and 23. That didn't happen, of course. I talked to the builder a while back. He promised me it would be done in the first quarter. Silly me. I thought he meant this year. I don't know when they're going to get it done, and I don't know that they do either, but when it happens, I'm bound and determined to get a boat full of people into the housewarming. Ticket, I'm sorry. Invitation or no. Here comes the prettiest part of our tour. This is the Venetian Canal, Canal de Veneziano, and it winds right through people's backyards. So here's a slice of life you don't get to see unless you're on the water. Both of these homes were James Gamble Rogers designs, but that one just got a big makeover. Over here, the statue, some of our drivers call that southern exposure. we are headed due norte. These are banana trees, but I haven't seen a hint of any growth. I don't see any flower, and I don't see any bananas, at least not yet. Come on, guys, you can do this. Here's another bridge, and this time I want to talk directly to the gentleman. Please do not reach up and try to touch the top. I know it's a thing. It's in our DNA. We can't help ourselves. But kind of sit on the hand this time, guys, because there's some sharp metal pieces up there. The orchids are real, but they don't just magically show up in trees. They've had some help. See the zip ties? Another bougainvillea. Look closely at the bracts. You will see that there actually is a flower after all. The little yellow things in the middle, those are your flower. Anything else is just a leaf of a different color. Well, now we're in a canal and very close to the homes, and so this is a neighborhood situation. So I kind of go a little quieter through here. Don't worry, you won't miss anything, and you can certainly talk to your heart's content. Oh, by the way, this is a two-way street, the canal. Yeah, it is, but don't worry. This is not my first rodeo. I'll take care of you, don't worry. So sit back and relax and just enjoy the ride. And by the way, this listing is just the boathouse. No house, just the boathouse. And the listing price is 6 figures, and one of those figures is a 5.
It's a little fixing.
Notice all the boathouses. Almost every home along the canal has one. But there's a distinct advantage if your boathouse is here on the left, because all of them are right on property. It's a different story over here. These folks have to walk all the way across the street to get to their boats. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, boo-hoo. No, don't cry for these people. They're doing just fine. And besides, we have both Uber and Lyft operating in Winter Park, just in case that little walk gets a little old. Here comes the widest spot on the canal. This is the ideal place to pass another boat just up ahead. But it hardly ever works out that way timing-wise, so we have to have alternatives. You might have noticed some of those boathouses back there sit empty. That's a good place to pop a boat for a minute when we need to. Many of the boathouses have a little apron of water out front where you could stash a jet ski or maybe a paddle board and get by, but sometimes we have to back up. We have 6 boats. They can all be in the canal at once. Believe me, that little backwards parade is something that you really would love to experience once in a lifetime. We get it done. Here's a little bit more of Rollins College. Look through the jungle here. This is the boathouse for the crew team. Crew is rowing. I'm sure you know that, but you might not know this little secret. Some of their boats are 60 feet long. 6-0. There's a 0% chance of ever seeing one of them in here. They can't make the turns. That's the Bradley Boathouse, home of the Rollins crew team, and this is our largest lake. This is Lake Maitland, Lago de Maitland. 455 acres, half in Winter Park, half in the city of Maitland, which is straight ahead, a derecho. Now, I mentioned at the start we'd be exploring the secrets of Winter Park, and I maintain that this city park to the right would qualify as one. It's a little bitty thing called Kraft Azalea Garden. And there's the secret right there, the azaleas or azaleas. They bloom in February and March, so you're welcome to come back next year to experience that. But all year long, we have these old-growth cypress trees and their shade. Some of these may be 1,000 years old. It's a pretty place and a romantic one. We have our share of weddings here. And this is where they happen. You see the columns? That's called the etc. That would serve as the altar for a park wedding. But here's the big secret about getting married here. The weddings don't last long. I know, it's a seating issue. There are only 12 park benches. No, I do. I'm done. You're married. Good luck, kids. So it's the ceremony.